Nick,
Back
just
to you.
please be safe over there. Nick Payton Walsh in Mykolaiv for us. Be safe over there. Let's discuss what's going on with the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, Oksana Markarova. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. I spoke a little while ago with the Pentagon press secretary. He told me the risk of providing fighter jets to Ukraine, in his words, is that Putin would see that as an escalation. He says that is not necessarily good for the world or the people of Ukraine. How do you respond to that?
Well, what Putin does in Ukraine right now, and we can describe it as, Wolf, your journalist, just put it rightfully, horrific and war crimes. Two sentences that actually describe what Putin is doing. And this is what is not good for the world. Because we also hear from Russia that they will not stop in Ukraine. We also hear that it's, that they're liberating somehow Ukraine, which clearly does not want to be. We were liberated in 1991 when we voted for our independence. And right now, in every city, whether it's Mykolaiv, where your brave team is, or Kiev, or other places, everyone, all women, men, and children, do not want to be occupied by Russia, and all of them are fighting. And as we see this terror, actually, hitting hospitals, hitting supermarkets, hitting residential areas. Today in Kiev, Lavina Mall, where I used to take my kids to on the weekend, was hit. All of this, even this horrible terror does not result in Ukraine's surrender. Yes, women and children are fleeing. We're trying to get them out of harm's way. Yes, we're trying to negotiate to get people out of Mariupol, where they're encircled for 10 days, but we are not ready to surrender. That's why they're resorting to this terror. So if anything, Ukrainians are showing the strength to fight for our land. We are showing the strength to fight for democracy, for freedom. It's larger than Ukraine. It's about the global security. And I think all of us together, all our partners, should also have strength to fight together with us. So we should not at this point think about what will provoke Putin, because whatever he's doing to Ukraine since 2014 and now was not provoked at all.
Yeah.
So we have to stop him while it's still local.
And as I keep pointing out, Ukraine represented absolutely no military threat at all to Russia. And look what the Russians under Putin are now doing to Ukraine. It's horrendous. Should we expect, Ambassador, President Zelensky to renew his calls for those jets, as well as maybe calling for a no-fly zone, when he addresses a joint meeting of the U.S. House and Senate of the Congress on Wednesday morning?
Well, I should not give a preview of what President will say on Wednesday, but, we need all the support that we can get. And of course, all anti-air and all the air defense items that we can get, we need all of them. And again, we never asked foreign troops on the ground. Our motivated and very capable army, including the Air Force, are ready to fight. And as I say on a daily basis now in Washington these days, give us the tools and our army will finish the job. So we don't want anyone to be on the ground, but we need all the support, all the equipment, especially the anti-air, because you see on the ground, they're not really successful. But what they're doing is bombing and destroying our cities and civilian objects from the air. And this is what we need support with.
Yeah, it's so terrible indeed. As the war drags on, Ambassador, what gives you reason to hope?
Well, there is a phrase that says you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only chance you have. So for us, it's our home. We don't have any other home. And we will defend this home. And I think the fact that Ukraine didn't fall during the first 20 hours, 24, 48, whatever, for 19 days, we are fighting effectively and successfully, even though we are losing so many of us against a much larger, brutal dictator and the army of this dictator. So we know that it's a righteous fight. We know that God is on our side. We know that all of our friends in the United States, but in all other civilized countries are on our side. We all have to win. We all have to bring peace not only to Ukraine, but to Europe, to our planet.
The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, Oksana Markarova, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck. We will stay in very close touch with you. Appreciate it very, very much. Coming up, urgent efforts are underway right now to free American citizens imprisoned in Russia. So how will U.S. officials bring them home now that tensions with the Kremlin are boiling over?
I'm Ivan Watson at the Moldova-Ukraine border. This is CNN.
More now in the breaking news. New explosions rocking Kyiv as Russian forces inch closer and closer to the Ukrainian capital. As many as 20,000 foreigners have now volunteered to help Ukraine fend off this Russian onslaught, some to fight, others to help. CNN's Jim Sciutto spoke to some Americans and others heading to the war zone, including an ex-Marine, a nurse, and a recruiter who vets them.
Their resumes range from combat experience to no military training at all. Brian, a 25-year-old from Minnesota, says he served 2 years with the Marines in Okinawa, Japan.
I'm a U.S. Marine. If I have to die to help these people, I will.
David, 33, from Canada, says he can help fix tires to keep Ukrainian military vehicles on the road.
If it's black and round and made out of rubber, I can fix it. And one of the most important things of the gears of war is keeping it moving.
All volunteers get at least some training, but while some can contribute on the battlefield, others may never see combat. Maddie, another member of Sky's medical team, is a travel nurse from Missouri, here to help and willing to put her life on the line to do it, as she's done before in Iraq.
Yeah, it worries me a little bit, but I just have a heart for these people. Like, I just really want to help them.
Jim Sciutto, thank you very much for that. Putin's invasion is raising deep concerns here in the United States about the fate of Americans imprisoned in Russia. CNN's Brian Todd is on the story for us. So what are you learning about the latest push now to try to bring these Americans home?
Well, Biden administration officials, without giving details, say they're working very hard behind the scenes to get these 3 Americans released. The WNBA and NBA told us a short time ago they're doing everything in their power to ensure Brittany Griner's return to the U.S. But there are increasing concerns tonight that with tensions this high between the U.S. and Russia, they could be held for some time. A new sense of urgency tonight regarding 3 Americans being held in Russia and the efforts to get them released.
I think we're in a place where folks are legitimately in danger. They're being held by folks that are thugs.
Jonathan Franks is a crisis management consultant who's campaigning for the release of Trevor Reed, a former U.S. Marine who's been detained in Russia since 2019, allegedly for endangering the lives of Russian police officers, which Reed's family denies and the U.S. ambassador to Russia called absurd. But tonight, Franks is also concerned about the fate of basketball star Brittany Griner, who CNN is told has been held in Russian custody since February 17th, after Russian authorities said they'd found cannabis oil in her luggage when she landed in Moscow. Franks warns we should be skeptical of those charges and the fact that the Russians put out images of what looked like a mugshot.
I think that there's an effort underway on Moscow's part to cast her as some sort of kingpin, and not exactly clear to me that I certainly haven't seen any evidence that suggests to me she actually is guilty.
Jason Rezaian, the Washington Post writer who was held in Iran for nearly a year and a half, has a harsher phrase for the detentions of Griner, Reed, and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan.
In the case of Paul Whelan and Trevor Reed, I don't think that there's any doubt that they're being held hostage. Politically motivated detentions that have gone on an exorbitant amount of time. In the case of Brittany Griner, it would appear to be part of that similar trend of an American being arrested during a very sensitive moment on political grounds. If that's the case, I would call her a hostage.
Security analysts very concerned tonight about how long the Russians may hold on to the 3 Americans, given that the war in Ukraine is intensifying and tensions between the U.S. and Vladimir Putin are at their worst levels ever.
It's hard to imagine a more difficult negotiating environment than this.
A key question tonight, given the climate of tensions, what will it take to get the 3 Americans released?
I'm the fortunate beneficiary of a massive government effort to get me out. That government effort was galvanized by private efforts, by the company that I work for and my family. And I think when families, employers, and the U.S. government are working together, Americans wrongfully detained abroad can come home.
Last week, Trevor Reed's parents said they feared he had tuberculosis and would be sent to solitary confinement rather than to a medical facility. Jonathan Frank says Reed's parents have since indicated that he has been sent to a prison hospital, but Franks does not have confidence that Reed is getting adequate medical care. Russian officials have just issued a statement saying it's not true that Reed has tuberculosis, that he is healthy, and he is serving his sentence, though, in a penal colony. Wolf.
I hope they come home soon, like everybody else. Thank you very much, Brian, for that report. There's more breaking news. Oil prices plunge, raising some hope that gas prices will follow. But how much will they drop and when?